Good morning, everybody. All right, so it's been a long day, but give it up for these amazing dancers. We had a great preliminary competition and a great day. So we're just giving adjudicated awards. We do not have any high point awards. We're going to jump right into it, starting with number 788. Canadian Dance Company, Boy from New York City, receives a high gold. Number 789 from SGS Dance, Charlie's, receives a high gold. Number 789A from Larkin Dance Studio, Stars and Stripes, receives a high gold. Number 790 from Center Stage Performing Arts Studio, Fosse, receives a judge's pick. 791 from Canadian Dance Company, Neglected Space, receives a high gold. 792 from Dance Arts Center, Adapt, receives a high gold. 793 from Larkin Dance Studio, Glory, receives a high gold. 794 from SGS Dance, Only We Know, receives a gold. 795 from Danceology, Roar, receives a gold. 796 from Canadian Dance Company, Please Mr. Postman, receives a high gold. 797 from Dance Force, Feminist, receives a high gold. 798 from SGS Dance, Pyramidian, receives a gold. 799 from Canadian Dance Company, Vuelo, receives a gold. Number 800 from Larkin Dance Studio, Red Dress, receives a high gold. 801 from SGS Dance, Trouble, receives a gold. 801A from Center Stage Performing Arts Studio, Mama, a Big Girl Now, receives a high gold. 802 from Dance Arts Center, Aftermath, receives a high gold. Number 803 from Vlad's Dance Company, Promised Land, receives a judge's pick. 803A from Canadian Dance Company, The Entertainer, receives a gold. Number 804 from SGS Dance, The Ritz, receives a high gold. 805 from Larkin Dance Studio, A Zillion, receives a judge's pick. 806 from Danceology, The Bird, receives a high gold. 807 from the Studios, Connection, receives a gold. 808 from Canadian Dance Company, Showtime, receives a high gold. 808A from Larkin Dance Studio, Flight, receives a judge's pick. 809 from SGS Dance, OMG in Japanese, receives a gold. Number 810, representing Tucson Dance Academy, The Chairman's Waltz, receives a high gold. Number 810A from San Diego Dance Center, New York, receives a gold. Number 811 from Dance Arts Center, Diamonds and Spades, receives a gold. Number 812 from Larkin Dance Studio, Bathing Beauties, receives a high gold. Number 813 from Canadian Dance Company, Squad Up, receives a gold.
Number 814 from SGS Dance, Twilight, receives a gold. 815 from Yoko's Dance Performing Arts Academy, Sharp Dressed Man, receives a gold. 816 from Tucson Dance Academy, The Hanging Tree, receives a gold. 816A from Larkin Dance Studio, Dreaming Awake, receives a judge's pick. 817 from Danceology, Twist, receives a gold. 818 from Canadian Dance Company, Hot Honey Rag, receives a high gold. 819 from SGS Dance, Written on the Wall, receives a gold. 820 from Larkin Dance Studio, Fire, receives a high gold. 821 from Dance Arts Center, Love, receives a gold. 822 from South Coast Conservatory in the Embers, receives a high gold. 823 from Vlad's Dance Company, Apart, receives a judge's pick. 823A from Larkin Dance Studio, Wild as the Wind, receives a judge's pick. 824 from SGS Dance, Arabian Eyes, receives a gold. 826 was from Dance Company, Forget Me Not, receives a gold. 826A from San Diego Dance Center, Falling, receives a high gold. 827 from Larkin Dance Studio, Rotten to the Core, receives a high gold. 828 from Canadian Dance Company, We're Gonna Party, receives a high gold. 829 from SGS Dance, Before We, receives a gold. 830 from Danceology, Umbrella, receives a high gold. 831 from Dance Arts Center, on to the next one, receives a high gold. 832 from Dance Force, All Coming Back, receives a judge's pick. 833 from Canadian Dance Company, Groan, receives a high gold. 834 from SGS Dance, Universe, receives a gold. 835 from Larkin Dance Studio, Liza with a Z, receives a judge's pick. 836 from Center Stage Performing Arts Studio, Surprise Yourself, receives a judge's pick. 837 from Next Step Dance Cell Block Tango, receives a judge's pick. 838 from Canadian Dance Company, The People, receives a judge's pick. 839 from SGS Dance, Wine Baby One, receives a gold. 840 from Dance Arts Center, Tethered, receives a high gold. 841 from Canadian Dance Company, Boots and Hearts, receives a high gold. 842 from Larkin Dance Studio, The Last Word, receives a judge's pick. 843 was from SGS Dance, The Way You Make Me Feel receives a gold. 844 from Danceology, Wild West receives a high gold. 845 from Canadian Dance Company, Orphans receives a judge's pick. 846 from Larkin Dance Studio, No Flex receives a high gold. And 847 from SGS Dance, To Where You Are receives a high gold.
Number 847A from Creative Arts Academy, Auriga du Changement receives a judge's pick. 848 from Dance Arts Center, Wild receives a high gold. 849 from Tucson Dance Academy, Watermark receives a high gold. Number 850 from Canadian Dance Company, Personal Jesus receives a high gold. Number 851 from SGS Dance, Find a Place receives a gold. Number 851A from Club Dance Studio, After Hours receives a judge's pick. 852 from Danceology, Moses Supposes receives a judge's pick. 853 from Larkin Dance Studio, Shapes receives a judge's pick. 854 from Canadian Dance Company, Power receives a gold. 855 from SGS Dance, Why Me receives a gold. 856 from Dance Arts Center, Heartstrings receives a high gold. 857 from SGS Dance, H2O receives a high gold. 858 from Canadian Dance Company, Pineapple Rag receives a gold. 859 from Larkin Dance Studio, A Soldier's Heart receives a judge's pick. 860 from Danceology, Grand Defy receives a high gold. 861 from Canadian Dance Company, A Great Divide receives a high gold. 862 from SGS Dance, Emotional Baggage receives a high gold. 863 from Dance Force, Move Your Body receives a judge's pick. 864 from Dance Arts Center, String Orchestra receives a high gold. 865 from Canadian Dance Company, Brit receives a high gold. 866 from SGS Dance, Jungle Vibes receives a gold. 867 representing Larkin Dance Studio, Fosse receives a judge's pick. 868 from Center Stage Performing Arts Studio, Dangerous receives a judge's pick. 869 from Canadian Dance Company, Belle de Vive, receives a high gold. 870 from SGS Dance, Serenade receives a high gold. 871 from Larkin Dance Studio, Icons receives a judge's pick. 872 from Dance Arts Center, Symphony of Seasons receives a gold. 873 from Canadian Dance Company, Cali 47 receives a high gold. 874 from Tucson Dance Academy, Get Aboard receives a gold. 875 from Dance Company, After Dark receives a high gold. 876 from SGS Dance, I Need That receives a high gold. 877 from Canadian Dance Company, Symphonic Variations receives a judge's pick. 878 from Larkin Dance Studio, Strong receives a high gold. 879 from Dance Arts Center, The Wolves receives a high gold. Number 880 from Canadian Dance Company, Skylark receives a high gold. 881 from SGS Dance, Welcome to Wonderland receives a gold. 882 from Tucson Dance Academy, Bardo receives a high gold.
883 from Larkin Dance Studio, Panda receives a judge's pick. 884 from San Diego Dance Center, Welcome to My Party receives a high gold. 885 from SGS Dance Kingdom receives a high gold. 886 from Canadian Dance Company, Circus receives a judge's pick. 887 from Larkin Dance Studio, Love Story receives a judge's pick. 888 from Danceology, Body Language receives a high gold. 889 from Larkin Dance Studio, Carry On receives a judge's pick. 890 from Canadian Dance Company, West Side receives a high gold. That, my friends, means it is time to go to bed. Thank you so much for being here. Congrats to these kids. We'll see you in the morning.
Have a great night. Thanks, everybody.